Welcome back to the Significant Coaching Podcast. This is our recruiting segment. I'm your host, Matt Rogers. In today's episode, I'm joined by world-class coach Bet Naumovski for part 2 of our conversation, this time focused on the realities and opportunities within NCAA Division II recruiting. Bet has evaluated thousands of athletes, built championship-level teams, and helped young women find the right fit both on the court and in the classroom. Just as importantly, she has spent her career advocating for equity in women's sports, pushing for opportunity, respect, and resources for female student athletes at every level. Before we dive in, a quick reminder, you can find my book, Significant Recruiting, the Playbook for Prospective College Athletes, along with my new companion workbook, The Basketball Recruits Journal, at CoachMattRogers.com. Both are designed to help student athletes stay organized, intentional, and confident throughout their recruiting journey. Let's get into part 2 with my good friend, Coach Bet Naumovski. Let's talk a little recruiting because you were really good at it. And you were in the recruiting capital of the world for a decade and a half. And you're from Toronto, so you understand, how great athletes can be all in one region. And you talked about in the first segment, when you're in Queens, you don't have to go too far to find really good basketball. Every university in New York doesn't have to go more than about 30 miles to be able to fill their roster if they wanted to.
Agreed. And that was one of the things that made Queens attractive and kept me there for a while is it's nice being in the mecca of basketball for a number of reasons, but there's a lot of talent.
Did you ever worry about the culture when there were too many kids from the city, too many New York City kids that maybe they all had that same mindset? Did you get to that point where you're like, I need to pull out of different areas? I need more diversity in terms of how my roster's built? Did that ever
So
work?
that's an interesting question. When I started at Queens, that was my goal when I got there, was I inherited a team of players who all knew each other before they got to Queens.
Right.
Either they played on the same AAU team or they played against each other in AAU or in high school. And I realized that year that I didn't like that. I didn't like that because it was just too, cliquey, and they knew all of the players on the other teams. And I thought this isn't a true college experience. And what I remember about being an athlete that I really liked was meeting, people on my team weren't all from Toronto. There was a handful from Toronto, and most were within, I would say, 4 or 5 hour drive. But still, they grew up in a different city, in a different culture. And to me, that was a big part of my university experience that I liked a lot. And I still, to this day, really enjoy meeting people from other cities, other cultures, learning from it, experiencing it. Because again, you could take a couple things. And as a student, I felt I learned a lot. Like I thought that the way I grew up in Toronto was the way that everybody grew up everywhere in every city. And then I realized, that's not how everybody grows up.
Yeah.
But I liked that. It challenged me as a person, and it was part of my growth experience as a student. And when I got to Queens, I thought, okay, I got to change this. I got to have a couple of New York City kids and a couple from upstate. And I do think that was a good thing. And then again, times changed, pandemic hit. During the pandemic, immediately after pandemic, I found that people weren't wanting to go that far from home. There was still that fear of what was going on. And I think families didn't want to have their sons and daughters go too far. So I found that the New York City kids were more attractive to the school than before. But that kind of evolved. But when I could be deliberate about it, that was important to me, is to diversify who we had. And the other reason was interesting because each city pocket plays basketball a little differently. So if you're in New York City, like everybody drives the ball, everyone wants to play off the dribble, everyone can get to the rim. If you go to upstate New York, everybody wants to shoot the three. They're pretty good at it. And other areas I thought did have that better understanding of team concepts and team play. And I started to look at it that way because I thought, because one went out of the pandemic, we were very New York City heavy for the reason that I said. And I thought, man, we don't have enough shooters on this team. let me go upstate because they're everywhere upstate. So yes, I was definitely deliberate about the region or city that I was recruiting.
Did you find yourself thinking about some of that too when you were putting kids together as roommates? Because I
Yes.
loved if I had a city kid and a small town kid, if I could
Yes.
have them together, just to
Yes.
see if magic could happen.
Yeah, I was more focused on personalities, but
Yeah.
when I could do that, have kid from one city and kid from another put together, I absolutely did. My first focus was always because again, you can't put a neat person with a messy person because that's not going to work no matter what. So I tried to focus on personalities, and then again, if I could do that, I would absolutely do that.
How did you find out those things? Did you do a survey with your incoming newbies? How did you
No,
know if they were neat
it
or
was just the recruiting process, and I feel like it might be a little more might be different for guys. I don't know. I ask a lot of questions because I'm an inquisitive person to begin with. So with
right?
recruiting, it's just those conversations, and once they commit and they're going through the process, the kids who, hey, I need this, I got to get it to admissions by Friday and have it to me the next day, I knew tend to be the neat kids, right? They need their ducks in a row. So I was like, okay,
Yes.
these are the options of players who could be together. And
Right.
the kids who I was like, I need it by Friday and they'd get it to me. I need it Friday at 5. And they got it to me at 4:59. That's another kind of kid. You're going to meet the timeline, but you're probably more laissez-faire. And I thought she may not be that organized in her room.
I love that. It just makes you wonder if I had to go back and do it again, would I do a little bit of that survey to figure that out? And then you can get creative with
Yes.
how you want to break
Yes.
through their insecurities.
And listen, if I had a kid who I knew was organizationally a disaster, I made sure that she was going to be with someone who was relatively organized to keep her on track and make sure that she's on time for meetings and practice.
Yeah.
So you're right. You definitely think about all those things.
Maybe they'll rub off on each other.
That's
They'll rub
cool.
off.
Yeah. Or she could say, come on, you got to go. We're going to be 5 minutes late. And if she goes, what's the big deal? Then hopefully that person would explain why it is a big deal.
That's right. All right, let's get into Coach Bet, the evaluator. You're sitting on the court, you and I are watching a club game. What are some of the things that jump out to you as green flags? You're like, I need more of that. I want to see more of this kid. Or the things that you're drawn to?
So first, again, it's what hole do you have to fill? What's the piece of the puzzle that you're looking for? But one for sure is, does that person have a motor? Are they constantly in motion? So do they have that motor transitioning from offense to defense, defense to offense? Do they instinctually go for offensive rebounds, making those extra effort plays? Because that's also telling me that person is in shape. You can't play with a motor if your fitness isn't high. So that kind of tackled two things: competitiveness, because I feel like that is a trait, a skill that is getting a little bit lost. So people who hate to lose, because if you hate to lose, then you're going to be, I think, proactive about figuring out solutions for how to win. I was at a coaching clinic once and Rick Majerus was the speaker. And I asked him, what are the things that you think that you either have or you don't? Things that you think that you can't coach, like that kid either has it or not. And he actually gave me a really good answer. And I've always had in the back of my mind. He said, hands, touch, feel. He's either you have good hands or you don't. And I found that he's absolutely right about that. And yeah. Like, again, you can improve it to a certain point, but it's always going to be a deficiency. And then the other one that he said, which we already talked about, was your decision making. Either you make good decisions or you don't. And again, you can improve to a certain extent, but that ability to see the game. So I do look at that. If someone has bad hands, I probably go, oh, I'm going to stay away from her. And then I absolutely do look at decision making. Does she know what the right pass was, what the right play was? Yeah. Does she take good shots? And then the other one, which again, I think is super important, and these people stick out more than ever, is the kids who communicate. Because before, everyone did to a certain extent, but now a kid talks or lead, like God forbid somebody would lead. You circle that name right off the bat, and you're like, I lead her. Whoa, let me see if she could play. Yeah. So those are things that I think differentiate players from others right now. So I'm definitely looking at those things. And then I would say potential. I think that was one of the areas that I felt like I was really good at. is looking at somebody and going, okay, she's not quite there, but there's a lot there that if I just tweak, I actually think she could be really good.
Yeah.
So I thought we were really good about finding kind of the diamonds in the rough. And often they did really well.
I'm interested. Motor shape, competitiveness, touch, hands, decision making, communication, and potential. Is the love of the game in there at all in terms of do one of those
So I would,
equate to love of the game?
so I would, I put that into competitiveness.
That's
You
what I
know,
wrote down. That's what I wanted.
like the kids who are competitive, like nowadays, I find that kids play, it's changing a little bit, but they don't play with the same outward emotion.
Yeah.
Like they don't fist pump and high five and celebrate as much as they used to.
Yeah.
I do think that's changing a little bit because of media and what's people are putting out there.
Or highlighting. Yeah.
I think, yeah, what they're highlighting, good word. Because I feel it when you love the game, you're not afraid to let everybody in the gym know that you love the game. Your face shows it. Your body language shows it. Your competitive spirit shows it. So 100%, absolutely. Like I do look at how animated is that person when they play. And again, they don't have to be the loudest person in the gym or chest bumping or whatever. In your own way, you celebrate when good things on the court happen.
Yeah.
And you know what? You get disappointed. It's a difference between hanging your head because you've made a mistake and you can't move on. And it's a different than clapping your hands and being upset that you just turned the ball over. But then, hey, you get down and now you're like, I'm going to make a play. I'm going to get a steal.
For me, I think my love of the game came out on the defensive side of the floor. I loved stopping, shutting down the other team's point guard. I just loved it. I loved making a great pass where one of my teammates got an easy score. I created something simple for them that they could get a bucket. And I love shutting down the other team's guard. Do you see that when you step on the floor? Is there something where you're like, that's the competitiveness. That's the love of the game. I want more of that.
So I think, yes. And I think one of them for me is also, I do look at, are you afraid of the moment? Because I do find that a lot of kids are afraid. They're afraid to make mistakes. So they tend to play in a safe area.
Yeah.
So are you afraid of the moment? There was a kid that I recruited very recently, and it was a big New York City event here, live DJ, lighting show, everything. And I watched her play. We were recruiting her. And when I watched her play in that event, and she ended up getting player of the game, she was not the best player on the team. There were multiple players who went and played Division I at good schools, big Division I schools. But she was the player of the game because she was the leading scorer. She got a couple steals and she looked like she does in every single other game. Like was relaxed, calm, stepped to the free throw line, knocked her free throws down. And I thought, not afraid of the moment. And that's a big deal because I'm hoping that we're going to be in situations where we're playing in playoff games and in hostile environments. And you're going to focus on, again, you're focused on what do I need to do to win instead of what happens if I make a mistake. All these people are watching me. And that's the difference, right? If you're playing afraid to make a mistake, then you're not playing to win. You're just playing to not make mistakes. If you're focused on winning, then you're focused on making the plays that it will allow the team to win. And I find that is becoming more and more of an issue because I find that anxiety level, that is a real problem right now in college athletics. Again, that's the world that I was in, college athletics. So every year I felt like that was a bigger problem than it was the year before, is the level of anxiety that these kids have on game day and who they were in practice and who they were when the parents showed up and the referees and the other team was so dramatically different and sometimes very hard to watch as a coach, very sad to watch.
Yeah, I was that kid. Yeah, and still to this day, I don't understand it. I don't understand why I could be so free and loose 99% of the time, other than 1% of the time. It wasn't there for me.
You know,
Find it. Is there a difference, coach, between not afraid of the moment and rising to the occasion? Because you talked about this kid that the occasion was huge and she stayed the same. Is there a difference between not being afraid and then rising to the occasion?
I do. We had a player on an old neighbor named Bria Jackson, who I enjoyed coaching so much. And I've never coached a player who made so many big plays when we needed a big play. So she played every game unafraid.
Yeah.
Unafraid. If I was like, this is what they're doing, you need to shoot the three, okay, I'll shoot. So she wasn't focused on missing or what if I miss or what if she never thought that way. It was just, I need to do this. I need to get a steal. I need to get a make. I need to get it. So always focused on what she needed to do. So always unafraid. But then there were games. And that year we were about a 500 team. That was my second year. We were a 500 team. And so we were in a lot of close games. And I just don't know anyone who hit more buzzer beaters than her to win us a game. And she was actually on Sports Center, top 10 for hitting a buzzer beater, sending us into double overtime. So but that ability to rise to the occasion, I think I've maybe coached 2, maybe 3 people in over 20 years of coaching who could really do that.
Yeah.
It's such a special gift.
I remember that group we were talking about earlier. You had your 4 or 5. I had my 4 or 5. I had Matt Regan. He was just never afraid of the moment. It didn't matter if it was start of the game or end of the game. He was going to be that guy. But then I had his partner guard on the other side of the floor was Ben Hebel. And Ben when it was time to hit the big shot or take the big shot, he wanted. It was disappointed if he didn't get that. So I think kids need to understand when we're out recruiting, we're watching those things. We're watching what your shoulders are doing, what your head and what your eyes are doing in those crucial moments. How are you reacting when there's a minute left and you got to step up the line and make a free throw when you're down 1 or down 2? What is that?
So I'm going to say, like, you probably noticed that when you ask me things I look for, I didn't name one thing that involves skill.
Right.
Because I think that you can teach that.
I agree.
Like I can teach you how to be a better shooter. I can teach you how to finish around the rim better. And obviously that's part of it. Hey, we need a shooter next year, so I'm going to be looking for the shooter. But there's a lot of shooters out there. So the skill that's just the beginning of it. I'm truly trying to look for things that I can teach or I can't, or you can teach it, but by the time you really are good at it, it might be in your senior year.
Yeah.
I don't have 4 years to wait for you to be better at that, because some things really do take just years before you're average at it.
Yes. Yeah. Is there an overrated skill in recruiting?
What a great question. They're an overrated skill. I don't think so, because I think everything comes down to a coach's philosophy. These are my philosophies. But another coach is going to say, there are some coaches who think the exact opposite of me, who think like, I don't want to have to teach any of that. I want you to be ready to shoot the ball when you come in.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to teach you how to finish around the rim.
I just talked to Heather Macy. That was Heather Macy. I don't want to, if I have to teach you how to get better at that, then I'm going to find somebody else.
But I also feel like that's the level of play. If you're at Division I, I do think that like you got to be ready. Like Division II, I understand that I'm going to be probably doing a little bit more teaching from a skill standpoint than a Division I coach. So I don't want to sit here and say that any skill is overrated, because I think that comes to a coach's philosophy. And there's a coach who's going to see it that way, that your skill is valuable, and that's what they're most focused on. There's a lot of coaches who say, I don't want to have to teach or coach any of the off the course stuff. I'm just going to focus on the basketball stuff.
Yeah.
And listen, I wish that was my philosophy, because I would probably sleep a lot better and not be so stressed out. But I do feel what I am doing ultimately is preparing these young people for life after sport. I do.
Yeah. And I think the more we have these conversations, the more you realize who you are. Because those are the things that always come back up. You and I are teachers. We got into this not to win championships. I want to teach kids how to work together so they can win a championship together. Yeah, we have the same goal, but I love the teaching side.
Me
I
too.
love when the light bulb goes off.
Me too.
Is there an underrated skill that players need to be thinking about when coaches are out recruiting? Is there something that they don't put enough time into?
So I think it's communication and leadership. I do, because I think that those are the two of the weakest areas of athletics right now. Is we used to do a lot, we tried to do as much team building stuff as we possibly could. And we used to bring the Marines in at the beginning of the year to do some team building and some leadership training. And one of the things that the captain said to me, because they're seeing the same issues trying to train cadets. And he said, this generation, they want to lead as a pack. They're reluctant to step away from the pack and lead. And he said that to me, and I thought a lot about it. And I thought, I think we're experiencing the same thing in athletics.
Yeah.
And there's just a greater fear than I think there's ever been before. And I think social media has a lot to do with it, because there's a lot of bullying, a lot of shaming, and people are afraid to step out from the group and speak their mind because they're afraid of what's that going to lead to. People talking about me, not liking me, posting this on social media about me. And he said, the problem when you try to lead as a pack is you can't see the direction that you're going in because you're amongst the pack. Someone has to step away from the pack and see the big picture and know where you're leading to. And I do think that there's not a lot of, or that kids are reluctant to lead. They really are reluctant to step away from the group and fitting in and belonging. Although we cared about that as well. Obviously, growing up, you wanted to fit in, you wanted to belong. But I feel like that's become a bigger goal for them than it ever has been in the past. And I think because of the social media, people will put on a post about them. So I do think that leadership and communication is now a skill that will separate you from your peers very quickly.
I agree. The metaphor that popped in my head is the conductor of an orchestra. I might be the greatest violist in the world, and I might be frustrated that guy or gal conducting us and leading us maybe isn't as good as I am, but it's the courage that it takes to lead that group, right? It's so hard to find. And I think of the Michael Fassbender, Steve Jobs movie. I thought they did such a great, I don't know if you watched that.
No.
It's worth your time because they did such a great job of pinpointing why Steve Jobs was so great at what he did. He wasn't a great coder. He wasn't a great with mechanics, but it was his vision and being able to explain his vision and help others get there. To me, that's the greatest sign of any coach. Is and you can explain it and get everybody on board to get there.
But that's that again. It's that, that's what we talk about anxiety and what's your motivation?
Yeah.
Is your motivation the fear of failure? So I'm doing this because I'm afraid that if I fail, this is going to be, or is my motivation the want to achieve my goal? And kids don't understand enough that you're going to be on two different pathways. And one is way more enjoyable than the other. When I'm when I'm focused on what I want rather than what I want to avoid, I enjoy sports so much better because my experience is more of a positive experience because I'm always thinking about how am I going to win? How am I going to achieve? How am I going to, and yes, it's a grind. It's difficult. But when my motivation is just focused on not failing, it's just negative, right? Because your motivation is what you don't want to see happen versus, so you're either chasing what you want to see happen or running away from what you don't want to see happen.
Right.
Running towards something is much more enjoyable than running away from it. And I've talked to my teams about that. And I think that's sometimes what's happening with the transfer portal. Are you going in the transfer portal because you're running away from something? Or are you going into the portal because you're running towards something?
Yeah.
So when I give the example of my student who decided to go in, at least she was running towards something. She was running towards her dream.
Yeah.
If you go in it because, hey, coach wants me to play defense here and I'm not a defensive guy. Yep. Guess what? There's no coach who's going to ever say, don't worry about defense over here. Like you can't outrun it. So I do think that makes a big difference in the experience that you have through athletics? Are you running towards something or are you running away from something?
That's why I'm going to keep pushing you to get back on the sidelines sooner rather than that right there.
Thanks, coach.
I love that. And when you need an assistant, you just holler and I'll come running. I'll follow you wherever you go. You've given me so much time today. Give parents a piece of advice who've got a teenager going through the recruiting journey. What's the one thing that you think they need to be focusing on?
I think it's hard to say one thing, but if I was to say one thing, it would be drown out the noise. Because when your child has a talent, everybody has an opinion on what they should do with that talent, where they should bring it, what they should do, where they should go. And it can be a distraction. So people's motivation is obviously to help. But in the end, I think it becomes a distraction. And I think that you lose yourselves in the process. Finding that balance of drowning out the noise and sticking to what matters to you as a family. And don't look to the right and don't look to the left about this person did this and my son or daughter is better, so they need to do equal or more. It's not about that at all. But people easily make it about that. And so I think drown out the noise, stay true to your family's values, and choose the school that really values your son or daughter and sees them as an important part of that team. Not in a year or two, you're going to develop into the starting point or the back. Like, what's the right fit? And I think too many families jump at the first highest offer. So for example, I'm being recruited by mid-majors, but one Power 5 school jumped in. So I'm going to go there because it's the higher school. You're probably a mid-major person. That's where most of your recruiting happens. So you're probably a mid-major.
That's right.
So I just really think that a lot of stuff is being distorted and lost in all of this. I do think at the end of the day, after 4 years, what you remember is the relationships that you built in those 4 years as a student. I still talk to my mentor.
Yeah.
It's 30 years later, and I don't know where I'd be without her.
Yeah.
But that would be my biggest advice is drown out the noise, do your research, choose the school that is the right fit and feels right for the family, and maintain your family values through this process.
Would you change that advice if I told you were talking to 16 and 17-year-olds instead of parents? Or would you come at a different angle?
I think that those 16 and 17-year-olds have more voices at them than the parents do, because their peers are everybody. And they also need to do their research. They have to ask questions. And this generation asks less questions in the process than they used to. And they need to ask the questions that are important to them. Not because, hey, my friend went on a visit and they asked these questions, so that sounds good, so I'm going to ask them. Like, you have to come up with a set of questions as a family that's going to allow you to decide that this is the right fit for my student. And I will also say, and I know that people are going to disagree with this, but you're asking me, so I'm going to give my opinion. If you're going into a school with the notion that I'm going to go there with the plan to jump in the portal after a year, I don't like that plan at all. I don't think it's fair to the coaches who are recruiting you, who genuinely believe in your child. And if that's what you want to do as a family, because that's what's important to you, then at least tell that to the coach. Yeah. Hey, like, how do you feel about, I would ask that question. How do you feel about students who just come to your school for 1 year because they want to? Because guess what? There are some coaches will say, it doesn't bother me at all. I just want to win.
Yeah.
And there are other coaches who will say, I really want this to be a 4-year relationship. I'd love to work with you for 4 years. You've got to be transparent in the questions that you're asking, but you also have to be transparent. Like you have to answer. When coaches ask you questions, parents and student, you have to be honest because that's where the headbutting happens in your first freshman year because coaches quickly realize, I thought you were A because you told me that you were A, but you're B and now I don't like it. And now I'm giving you consequences. But
Yeah,
if you would have just told me, because hey, listen, I really wanted my kids to get into the gym. We have a gun. It's over $10,000. Use it, please.
that's right.
You could use it whenever you want, but get on the gun. And then she's a gym rat, coach. You'll have to kick her out. Okay. But at the end of the year, I can count how many times she shot on the machine in one hand.
That's right.
That's a stickler for me. So guess
You
what?
can't-
I'm going to be constantly on you about that. And I can't imagine that's going to be fun for you.
No, it's
So I
not.
think that honesty and transparency is super important, not just for the coaches, but for the student, the athlete, and the parents as well.
I totally agree. There's a great quote from Ted Lasso where he says, be curious, not judgmental.
Oh,
You got to go into every situation going, how could this make my life better?
yeah.
It may be hard. It may be a hard path to that, but I see how this can help me with some of the things I don't have right now. I don't think I'm ready to be an adult. Is this person in front of me, can they help me become that adult and help me get over some of these insecurities?
That's a really good point, though, Matt. Is I think that you also, first of all, I do think that as a family, once you realize this is what you want to do and schools are starting to show interest, I do think that you have to have conversations as a family.
Agreed.
And I think one of the conversations to be had is when it's all said and done after 4 years, when we look back, what do we hope was accomplished from those 4 years? Is it that I want my son or daughter to be ready for the real world? Or is it that, listen, the financial piece is the most important piece to us. We want to make sure that we're not in debt after this. It's your journey. It's your thing as a family. I'm not here to judge you. If that's where your values are, that's what it is. But get on the same page with that and then make sure that you're being transparent about that with the coaches who are recruiting you. Because like I said many times in this is just my opinion, but there's a coach who has the exact opposite opinion than me. So you might not be the player for me, but that doesn't mean that you're not the right player for anybody. It's just you're not the right fit for me, just as I am not for you. But there is going to be a coach out there who says, I don't care that person doesn't talk as long as they defend and they do things right.
Yeah.
So if you're honest about all of that, then you are going to find the right coach for you and the right school for you and the right fit and probably not want to jump into the transfer portal.
And maybe I'm just too old school. Maybe the game has passed me by, but I look at recruiting as a marriage. Those points you just made. If I'm getting married thinking, well, I can always go get a divorce attorney, you've got one leg out the door already. This isn't somebody you care about and want to spend a life with. And if I'm going to go after a coach or a school and I want to play for them, I want to go in it saying, I want to be with you as long as I can be with you. I'm committing to you because I see something special that I want to be a part of every day. As a coach, I'm saying that. And as a student athlete, I need to say that. I want to be a part of that journey. And that's why for all the families I talk to, I don't take many on as clients because there's too often I don't feel that. I don't feel like you're in this for the right reasons. I'm not the right coach for you if you don't want this to be a great educational experience for you.
Yeah, and I think the other is what kind of, because I think this is important to discuss as a family, but also discuss to the coaches, what type of relationship do you want with that college coach?
That's right.
Because that has changed as well over time. In the past, the student athletes looked at us more as mentors. They would ask you for advice about life advice. And I think more and more it's become transactional. I hate to say that.
Yeah.
But it's not for everybody, right? Like for me, again, I got into this because I genuinely want to help students and hopefully try to provide them with a transformation experience. And I know that's becoming harder and harder, but that's who I am and I can't be something that I'm not. So it's important to me to find students who are like, when I come here, that's what's important to me is that I learn and I grow as a human being. And I think that coach is going to help me do that. If you're kind of like, I really don't care about having a relationship with my coach, I just want to play. I'm not judging you. I'm just not the coach for you.
Yeah.
But there is one for you. There is someone who's also, hey, I just want to win games. And if you can help me win games, you're going to be on the court.
But I know you could win a championship at the D1 level, but I'm not sure you weren't born to be a D3 coach. Because I think all the things you speak of, I think that's still there where it's gotten lost in D1 and D2, that love of the game and love of the relationships and kids that want to play for the right reasons. And I'm still a believer that D3 is hanging on to that. And I hope they don't lose that.
I agree.
So,
I agree.
Coach, thank you so much for your time. Just an honor to talk to you and a great pleasure to call you a friend. And I wish we would have talked more these last 12 years, but I wish you well, and I'll be cheering for you wherever you go.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it. Thanks for the opportunity. And likewise, I have a ton of respect for you. So I enjoyed the conversation very much. Thank you so much.
And that's a wrap on part 2 of my conversation with Coach Bet Naumovski. Her insight into NCAA Division II recruiting, her commitment to equity in women's sports, and her care for the people behind the process are reminders that recruiting is about far more than offers and rosters. It's about fit, opportunity, and long-term growth, and it doesn't really matter what division level you want to play at. If today's episode helped bring some clarity to your recruiting journey, please follow, rate, and share the podcast on whatever platform you're listening on. And don't forget, you can find Significant Recruiting, the playbook for prospective college athletes, and the Basketball Recruits Journal at CoachMattRogers.com and at Amazon.com. Until next time, stay focused on what you can control, stay humble, and keep chasing significance.